My refined and gentle husband used my dowry to secretly support his mistress for 16 years. The young son I had painstakingly raised was not only his mistress's child who had usurped my own, but he also resented me for preventing their family reunion, constantly wishing for my death. My heart turned to ash, and I felt hopeless. The moment I raised a hairpin to end my life, I had an epiphany. If I killed myself, wouldn't I just be leaving the adulterous couple to live happily ever after? Why wait for a rebirth? I would have my revenge in this life. I stood there, stunned, unable to believe what I was seeing. My husband of over a decade, Julian, who had always treated me with respect, was now holding a still beautiful middle-aged woman, his eyes filled with a deep, unspoken affection. What was even harder to accept was that my beloved young son, whom I had doted on for years, was now looking at the woman with adoration, calling her mother. My head spun. If she was his mother, then what was I? My maid Willow, her face a mixture of shock and anger, held my trembling body steady. Fragments of conversation drifted up from the small cabin at the foot of the mountain. I clearly heard my beloved son, Leo, say in his usual cheerful tone, "That old woman is so annoying. All she does is force me to study. I think she just wants me to bring her glory. That is why she won't let me marry Aurora. Mother is the best. Mother loves me the most." The middle-aged woman's eyes flickered, and then she gently tapped his nose. "You are my only child. Who else would I dote on?" The intimacy between them sent a sharp pain through my heart. I never thought that all my years of careful guidance would be seen as oppression in my son's eyes, all for my own glory. "Father, when are you going to divorce that old woman? If it weren't for her, our family of 3 could have been together long ago." Leo continued to chatter, his careless tone making my blood run cold. Pretending to be her son for 16 years has been such a drag. Her real son was drowned at birth. We've let her enjoy 16 years of family bliss. That is more than she deserves. He chuckled, and Julian and the middle-aged woman laughed along with him. "My dear Leo, I've made your favorite black chicken soup. Go on in and have some. You can finally relax here." Leo happily went inside to have his soup. I stared, frozen. I should have rushed down there and fought with those animals. But I couldn't move. The betrayal of my respectful husband, the disdain of my obedient son, and the early death of my own child, it all threw my mind into chaos, as if my brain had turned to mush. Below, the conversation between Julian and the middle-aged woman continued. The woman snuggled into his arms, her eyes glistening with tears. He held her hand. "Iris, you've suffered these past few days. I've been so busy with family matters, I haven't been able to see you." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I understand. With such a shrew at home, you have to be careful. For the sake of your future, I can endure any grievance." I almost laughed out loud. This adulterous pair was making it sound as if I were the one who had cruelly separated them. "Iris, just wait a little longer. Isabella has been of some use, forcing Leo to study hard. Now, at only 16, he is already a scholar, a renowned talent. You'll soon be able to live in comfort in our home." But the middle-aged woman shook her head. "It is not time yet. Leo keeps talking about marrying some courtesan. If we object, it might create a rift between us. Why don't we use Isabella? Let her deal with the courtesan. It will not only remove a potential problem for us, but it will also make Leo despise her completely." Julian laughed heartily. "Iris, you are so clever. You're right. After Isabella has taken care of this, she will have served her purpose and can die of exhaustion, hidden behind the trees." I saw his expression clearly. The chilling, murderous intent in his eyes as he spoke sent a shiver down my spine. This was the husband I had adored for over a decade. For him, I had willingly married into his family. But not only had he been deceiving me all along, he was even planning to squeeze every last drop of value from me before sending me to my death. I don't know how I made it back to the estate. I numbly locked myself in my room, my heart a hollow void. My eyes fell on a novel lying on my dressing table. My gaze froze. It was the most popular novel in the capital recently, The Phoenix Hairpin. The story was about a pitiful woman who had been deceived and betrayed. After being reborn, she took her revenge, brutally nyadai her scumbag ex-husband from her previous life. And in the end, found her true love and lived happily ever after. At every banquet, the ladies would discuss the plot of the Phoenix hairpin. My eyes were glued to the novel, my heart pounding. Could it be true? Could there be a rebirth? Could I really have a second chance? If there were a next life, I would avoid that animal Julian, and I would save my own son. My expression grew wild, and my hand trembled as I pulled a hairpin from my hair. The sharp point pierced my neck, a sharp pain shooting through me. Just as I was about to plunge it in, I heard another maid, Iris, cry out from outside. "Madam, the young master has thrown his food on the floor again. He hasn't eaten in 2 days, and he has locked himself in the ancestral hall. The old madam wants you to try to persuade him, Willow. Why are you blocking the door? Let me in." The hairpin paused for a moment. My dear son wasn't with his real mother. He wasn't eating. A sarcastic smile touched my lips. Only on my deathbed did I absurdly realize that my own maid had also betrayed me. Everyone in this estate had conspired to treat me like a fool. "If he wants to starve, let him," I said coldly. Willow, perhaps sensing the change in my tone, sent Iris away and rushed in. Seeing the hairpin at my neck, she cried out and lunged for it. "My lady!" She knelt on the floor, weeping. "I know you are in pain, but please don't do anything foolish. Do you remember Mrs. Zhang? She has only been gone for a few days, and Mr. Zhang is already planning to make that vixen his official wife." I froze. Official wife? Mrs. Zhang was a close friend from my youth. She had fallen in love with a merchant and had even cut ties with her family to marry him. But soon after, the merchant had shown his true colors, frequenting brothels and even bringing a courtesan home, doting on her and neglecting his wife, even wanting to make the courtesan his co-wife unable to bear the humiliation. Mrs. Zhang had taken her own life by swallowing gold. And now, just a few days after her death, the merchant was already planning to make the courtesan his official wife. Yes, Willow's voice was filled with disgust. And it is a pity for Mrs. Zhang's children, now living under that vixen's thumb. Her words were like a clap of thunder, jolting me to my senses. Yes, if I died, it would all be over. If I really killed myself, wouldn't I just be making it easy for Julian and his mistress? He wouldn't even have to bother with a plan to get rid of me. He could just be with his mistress openly. A raging fire of anger ignited in my eyes. I swept the phoenix hairpin from the table. Why wait for a rebirth? I would have my revenge in this life. Let me be the villain who breaks them up while they play the loving parents in their dreams. Didn't they want to use me to stop the courtesan from entering the family? Then I would make sure Leo married a courtesan. Hiding the hatred in my eyes, I let Willow redo my hair and makeup. When I arrived at Leo's residence, my dear husband was already there. The moment he saw me, he exploded. "Is this how you manage the household, Isabella? I am so disappointed in you." I ignored him completely, afraid that if I looked at him, I would be tempted to stab him with a pair of scissors. I rushed to Leo's bedside. "My dear son, how can you harm your own body for a woman? This is breaking your mother's heart." Leo lay in bed, his expression aloof. "As long as you don't agree to let me marry Aurora, I won't eat." "All right, I agree. Is that enough?" Both father and son were stunned. Leo's eyes lit up with joy. He propped himself up. "Mother, you really agree to let me marry Aurora?" I wiped away my tears. "You are my little tormentor? Now that you are willing to die for her, what can I do? I can't just watch you starve yourself to death. Thank you, Mother. I knew you loved me the most." While Leo was ecstatic, Julian, standing to the side, was furious. He said in a low voice, "No, how can you let a courtesan into our family?" I held Leo and said earnestly, "Husband, I know you are very unhappy about Leo marrying a courtesan, and have even warned me that if I can't stop it, you will punish him severely. But seeing him like this, I can't bear to separate them." "My lord, if you must punish someone, punish me." Hearing my words, Leo gave his father a strange look. Julian's eyes flickered. "When did I say that? Weren't you the one who was adamant that Leo shouldn't be reckless? I looked at him with joy. Husband, does that mean you agree to let Leo marry Aurora? He was speechless, meeting his son's suspicious yet hopeful gaze. He was at a loss for words and left in a huff. After he left, I lovingly tucked Leo in and took out 100 taels of silver. Leo, since you are so determined to marry Miss Aurora, you must show your sincerity. Tomorrow is the Lantern Festival. Take this money and go with her. Leo took the silver, his face first showing joy, then quickly turning to dissatisfaction. 100 taels isn't even enough to buy her a hairpin. Mother, give me more, I said with a troubled expression. The household finances are managed by your grandmother. 100 taels is the most I can give you. Seeing his frown, I changed the subject. But your grandmother has always doted on you. If you ask, she will surely give you the money. He finally smiled, threw off the covers and ran to his grandmother's courtyard, completely forgetting the hunger strike he had been staging for me. Not long after, Willow whispered in my ear. The young master went to ask the old madam for money. She was going to give it to him, but when she heard it was for a courtesan, she immediately took it back. I heard he even caused a scene in the north courtyard, saying that neither she nor the master truly loved him, that only you, madam, loved him the most. I covered my mouth and smiled. Of course, I loved him. I had gone to great lengths to arrange a good match for him, but he had turned it down, insisting on marrying a courtesan. In that case, as his mother, I would grant his wish and completely ruin this good match for him. The day after the Lantern Festival, the wife of the Right Vice Minister of Rights came to visit. I had just greeted her with a smile when she said with a forced one, "Yesterday, my maid saw your son and the top courtesan of the brothel exchanging vows under the moon. They are a perfect match. Since your son already has a beloved, let's just forget about the marriage proposal between our two families." Her words were polite, but her attitude was firm. I sighed, feigning helplessness. Your daughter is virtuous and talented. It is my son's misfortune. The proposal was just a casual mention. We must not delay your daughter's prospects. Seeing that I wasn't making a scene, her expression softened slightly. Since we've cleared things up, I will take my leave. Just as she was about to leave, Willow announced, "Madam, the old madam is here." With that, the old madam walked in with a smile. Seeing the vice minister's wife, she greeted her warmly. "My dear, what brings you here today? Are you here to discuss the marriage between our two families?" The vice minister's wife's expression, which had just relaxed, instantly hardened. "Old madam, please be careful with your words. Your family has not sent any betrothal gifts to my family. What marriage are you talking about? Besides, I have long heard that your son is infatuated with a courtesan, and has even gone on a hunger strike for her. My daughter cannot handle such a devoted man." The old madam's smile froze. I quickly stood up and tried to smooth things over. "Mother, since Leo is so determined to marry that courtesan, why should we delay Mrs. Prospects?" The old madam flew into a rage, venting all her frustration on me. "Who said Leo is going to marry a courtesan? I don't agree. How do you manage this household? To let a courtesan in, where will our family's reputation be? If that courtesan enters the family, you can just ask for a divorce." Her harsh and venomous words ignited a fire of hatred in my heart. For Julian's sake, I had tolerated this old woman time and again. Did she really think I was a pushover? I covered my face with a handkerchief and pretended to cry. "Mother, if you are dissatisfied with me, you can just say so. When Julian asked me to hand over my dowry for you to manage, I did. Mother, I will do whatever you ask. Just please don't let Julian divorce me." Her words made both her and the vice minister's wife's faces change. The old madam's face was terrifyingly dark. She denied it. "What nonsense are you talking about? Who asked you to hand over your dowry? Your baseless accusations are tarnishing our family's name." I cried out in alarm and looked at the vice minister's wife worriedly, nodding repeatedly. "Yes, madam, I was just talking nonsense. My husband absolutely did not ask me to hand over my entire dowry." The vice minister's wife looked at us strangely, opened her mouth as if to say something, then just sighed. "Madam, I will take my leave." As soon as she left, the old madam raised her hand to slap me. My eyes turned cold. I intercepted her arm and threw it back. "Mother, I only gave you my dowry out of respect for Julian. Since you are unwilling to manage it for me, you should return it to me as soon as possible. If my dowry is not returned in full by tomorrow, I cannot guarantee that the story of a respected scholar coveting his wife's dowry will not spread throughout the capital." After I pushed her away, the old madam was about to fly into a rage, but when she saw the coldness in my eyes, she trembled and didn't dare to lecture me as she had before. That night, Julian stormed into my room. "Isabella, how could you be so disrespectful to Mother today? She is ill from your anger. You must go to the north courtyard and kowtow, and promise you will never disobey her again." The bronze mirror reflected the arrogant and righteous expression on his face. My hand, holding the hairpin, tightened. How blind I must have been to not see the condescension and impatience beneath his handsome features. My tone became sharp. "Today, she humiliated me in front of the vice minister's wife. I believe I have shown her enough respect and have done everything a mistress of the household should. I don't know why, but Mother just doesn't like me. Is there someone else in her heart more suitable to be the mistress of this family? Does she think I have taken someone else's place? And that is why she is always picking on me." In the mirror, Julian's brow furrowed, then quickly smoothed out. His anger was gone, and his tone softened. "Isabella, what are you thinking? You are the best mistress of this family," I sneered silently. "In any case, nothing I do will ever satisfy Mother. Since that is the case, I might as well take back my dowry and properly prepare a betrothal gift for Leo." Seeing that Julian was about to speak, I cut him off. "Didn't you always say I was too strict with Leo? He has finally found someone he loves. As his mother, of course, I must fulfill his wish. Husband, you should go to the study tonight. I am tired." After sending him away, I had a pleasant sleep. The next morning, the old madam returned my dowry with a dark face. Julian also said to me with a cold expression, "You can let that courtesan in, but only as a concubine." I glanced at Leo. I don't know what they had discussed last night, but he had also agreed. I smiled gently, and immediately went to buy Aurora's freedom. If she was going to enter the family, it should be soon. Who knew if this was just a stalling tactic from Julian and the old woman? On the day of Aurora's arrival, everyone's face, except for mine and Leo's, was grim. The grimmer they looked, the more genuinely I smiled. Seeing Leo's heartache at his beloved having to enter through the side door, I knew this Aurora was no simple woman. Sure enough, less than 2 days after she arrived, she had her eyes on the household management. "Mother, you should be enjoying your old age. Since I have entered the family, I should help you with some of the burdens." During the morning greetings, before I had even finished my tea, Aurora spoke with a sweet, delicate expression. Leo chimed in righteously. "That is right, Mother. Just hand over the household management to Aurora." Seeing the calculation hidden in her delicate eyes, I smiled faintly. What a brilliant plan! If I were my old self, a courtesan concubine daring to covet the household management, I would have punished her severely. But now, I couldn't wait for the family to be in more chaos. "All right. Since you are so willing, you can help me with some of the household affairs." "Thank you, Mother." Aurora was both surprised and delighted. Her tone when she called me Mother was even more sincere. On her first day as the household manager, Aurora was full of energy. She went to the storeroom, the kitchen, the pharmacy, and even the remote corners of the garden. Just as she stepped into a corner of the garden, she heard 2 young maids gossiping. "Did you hear? Young Master Leo is not actually the master's biological son." Just as she was about to punish the 2 gossiping maids to establish her authority, she froze at this secret. What? Impossible. The master dotes on the young master so much. How could he not be his biological son? You don't know. The madam is actually infertile, but the master and madam have a good relationship and don't care about it. The young master was actually adopted. Think about it. If the young master was really the master's biological son, how could he agree to let him marry a courtesan? Now that the young master is so insistent on marrying a courtesan, He has angered the master. I heard the master is planning to adopt another child from the clan to inherit the family fortune. Oh my God, really? What about the young master then? What else can be done? He'll be kicked out. Who told him not to listen to the master? But after all, he was raised by them, so they won't let him suffer. He just won't have his current glamorous life. In that case, if someone could give birth to the master's child, wouldn't they become a phoenix? Not only that, I think the master must regret it now. Who wouldn't want a biological son? If you could give birth to the master's only son, you might even become the mistress of the household. The two maids laughed and joked as they left the garden, leaving Aurora standing there, her eyes dark. The two maids, after leaving the garden, quietly came to my chambers. I handed them a silver ingot. Did you pass on the message? Rest assured, madam, it has been delivered. Under the pretext of managing the household, Aurora had more opportunities to interact with Julian. This woman may have been average in other aspects, but when it came to seducing men, she was a true master. In just a month, she and Julian were exchanging flirtatious glances. Perhaps in Julian's mind, Aurora was just a courtesan he could play with. He did not see her as a member of the family. But since she was nominally his son's concubine, their interactions were limited to glances, and neither of them took the first step. Since they weren't taking the bait, I had to give them a push. One day, under the pretext of praying to the god of literature, I took Leo out and had someone add an aphrodisiac to the ginseng soup Aurora served to Julian every day. Halfway there, as I was checking the offerings, I suddenly slapped my forehead. "Oh no, I forgot the zongzi," Leo said casually. "Just buy some at the foot of the mountain." "How could we do that?" I said, feigning anger. "I stayed up all night making those. Each one has your name on it. It is about sincerity, you know." "What sincerity is there in buying them from a shop? We haven't gone far anyway. Let's just turn back and get them." He couldn't argue and had to agree. The moment we returned to the courtyard, Aurora's maid saw him and dropped her cup in a panic. He frowned and looked around. "Where is concubine Aurora?" "The concubine?" The maid stammered, sweat pouring down her forehead. His face darkened completely. He kicked her. "I asked you a question. Where is she?" "The concubine is in the master's study. She was bringing him ginseng soup." The maid's guilty expression was like a hand squeezing his heart. He didn't want to suspect her, but his feet still carried him to his father's study. As he got closer, the familiar moans of a woman pierced his ears, like a sharp sword. "Master, gentler. I can't take it. My dear Aurora, didn't you say you wanted to have a son for me? When you are pregnant, I will take you from Leo. He is just a young boy. Can he satisfy a lustful woman like you? And you even came to me. You're terrible the moment I saw you. Master, my legs went weak. Leo has never given me this kind of pleasure." The sounds of their lovemaking completely shattered the last of his illusions. The anger of being humiliated and betrayed by his own father made his eyes turn red. He was blinded by rage and without a second thought, kicked open the study door. "You slut!" "Ah!" The man and woman in the study clung to each other in fear. Seeing the person at the door, Julian's face changed. He shot up and pushed Aurora away. "Adulterers!" Leo roared. Julian's face went from pale to ashen. He had been embarrassed at being caught by his son, but hearing his son dare to curse him, his face instantly darkened. He slapped Leo across the face. "You insolent brat! How dare you speak to your father like that?" He glanced at the disheveled, weeping Aurora. "You can have any woman you want. How dare you defy your father for a common slut? If this gets out, where will our family's reputation be? This woman is a disaster. Leo, now, show me your resolve." When I returned with the zongzi and found him, he was staring blankly at a dry well in the back garden. "Leo, what is wrong? Let's go." I gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Ah," he seemed to be greatly startled and screamed, pushing my hand away. Seeing who it was, he got up in a panic. "Mother, I'm not feeling well today. Let's go and pray another day." With that, he quickly disappeared from the back garden. From that day on, Aurora, who had once been so rampant in the family, disappeared without a trace, and between the once close father and son, an invisible rift had formed. I pretended not to notice the distance between them. I knew the real battle was just beginning. Less than half a month after Aurora's death, a special guest arrived at the estate. The usually cold and distant Julian was now warmly supporting a delicate middle-aged woman as they entered the main hall. The old madam was already in tears. Before the woman even got close, she rushed over, took her hand, and cried, "Iris, you've finally come to see your aunt." Iris also shed a tear. "Aunt, I have been unfilial. I have come to you for help. I hope you and my cousin will not despise me." Julian restrained himself and let go of her hand. "Cousin, Mother is so happy to have you. How could we despise you?" I watched them act out their little play with cold eyes. Perhaps it wasn't entirely an act. The old woman was so fond of this mistress Julian had hidden for over a decade. She must really be her niece. To show up now, she must have come with ill intentions. I covered my smile with a handkerchief. Perfect. If she hadn't come, how could I send all three of them to hell together? After their little performance, Julian began to give me orders. "Isabella, Iris is an honored guest. You will vacate your chambers and move to the bamboo courtyard." Although I didn't care where I lived, for me to voluntarily give up my position for her, I sneered. "Fine. I don't think I'll bother with the bamboo courtyard. I'll just move back to my family's home." With that, I got up to pack. Both he and the old woman stiffened. "Isabella, what are you doing now? Iris is a guest. As the mistress of the house, how can you be so unaccommodating?" The old woman even started to throw a tantrum. "After you married into this family, you are an outsider to your own family. Why would you live in someone else's house instead of your own? People will think we have wronged you." "Wronged me? How?" "By having a dear cousin show up and immediately demand that the mistress of the house give up her room. Let's not even talk about whether my family would consider me an outsider. My own chambers from before I was married have been kept for me." "Isabella." Julian grabbed my arm and forced a gentle smile. "You've misunderstood. I was just thinking that since Iris is a guest, we should make some sacrifices for her." "Since you are unwilling, then forget it. Why bother my in-laws and brother-in-law over such a small matter?" Iris looked at him with teary eyes, her lips trembling. "Sister-in-law, I had no other intention." I laughed. "Auntie, you are too kind. You look to be in your 40s. I am not worthy of being called your sister-in-law." The pitiful, sad expression on her face froze. Her hand trembled as she touched her face, and she gritted her teeth. "Sister-in-law is joking. I am only 35. "Oh, so you're 35. Then your son should be getting married soon, right? Oh, the age of enjoying your grandchildren. How wonderful. Why didn't I see your son with you?" The delicate expression on her face could no longer be maintained. The old woman sent me away with a dark face. "Go and have the kitchen prepare a meal. We have an honored guest today and must entertain her well." After I had instructed the cook to prepare my favorite dishes, I returned to the north courtyard to find the three of them, along with my dear son, already seated, with no place left for me. Looking at them, they were a picture of a happy family. Iris had said something that made both Julian, on her left, and Leo, on her right, laugh heartily. I narrowed my eyes. She was a true biological mother. In just one meeting, she had managed to ease the tension between father and son. Seeing me enter, their smiles vanished. Julian even said, "Isabella, it has been a long time since you have served Mother today. You will stand and serve us." I couldn't help but take a sharp breath. He was really pushing it, wasn't he? Under his satisfied gaze, I smiled and walked over, scooped up a spoonful of soup. Then, after a moment's thought, put it down and picked up the entire tureen, dumping it over his head. "Ah!" Iris's high-pitched scream nearly pierced my eardrums. The old woman was so angry she was trembling. "What are you doing?" He looked at me in disbelief before he could get angry. I burst into tears. my handkerchief in hand. Husband, I am the mistress of the house. To do this is to humiliate me. You have disappointed me so much. With that, I ran out, crying. He was shocked and stunned. In the end, he had to grit his teeth and come and apologize. Staring at his clenched fists, a cold smile touched my lips. Can't take it already. The show is just getting started. With Iris's mediation, the relationship between Leo and Julian continued to improve. Whatever was happening on the inside, on the surface, the two of them had returned to their former closeness. Half a month later, Julian's birthday finally arrived. As was custom, he invited his superiors, colleagues, and their families to our home. Iris, as a cousin, naturally attended. At the banquet, the other officials' wives brought up the old topic. Isabella is so fortunate. Her husband is so devoted. He hasn't even taken a concubine after all these years. Her son is also intelligent and well-behaved. At only 16, he is already a scholar. I heard he took the provincial exam recently. If he passes, he will be a provincial graduate. Someone said with a sour tone. I think Isabella is just a jealous woman. What man in the world doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? But she is so possessive. Seeing me out of the corner of her eye, the woman quickly shut her mouth. But I wasn't angry. Instead, I smiled at her. Madame Qian is right. My husband is so generous to me, I should also be considerate of him. So, on this happy occasion, I am planning to take a concubine for him. Madame Qian stared at me, dumbfounded. After confirming I was serious, she looked at me as if I were a fool. I ignored the other lady's stares and pulled Iris, who was sitting in a corner, to the men's section. When we arrived, I heard someone teasing Julian. There aren't many devoted men like you these days. My wife often uses you to scold me, he replied with a smile. My humble wife is jealous, not as virtuous as your honorable wife, of course. I couldn't stand his nonsense and interrupted him loudly. Husband, you have misunderstood me. The household is so quiet. I would be happy to have more sisters to liven things up. I pushed the stunned Iris in front of him. On this happy day, why don't we have a double celebration and take Iris as your concubine? The word concubine hit a nerve. Both of them finally came to their senses. Noticing the curious gazes of the crowd, Julian's anger was barely contained. Isabella, what are you doing? Iris is a good woman. How can she be a concubine? Even Leo, who had been sitting on the other side, seeing his own mother being bullied by this vicious adoptive mother, rushed over and glared at me. What are you doing, bullying my cousin? Mother, you have disappointed me so much. Just because my cousin is gentle, virtuous, filial, and well-liked by everyone in the household, you have to come up with such a way to humiliate her and force her to leave. You are inferior to her in every way, and now your heart is so vicious. Iris also put on a show, her eyes filled with tears, her voice fragile and indignant. Aunt, if you don't want me to stay here, you can just say so. Why must you humiliate me like this? I would rather die than be a concubine. Their layered accusations made the guests look at me differently. Tex K, I never thought Isabella was such a jealous woman. To humiliate an innocent young woman like that. Even her own son calls her a vicious woman. Her character must be truly deplorable. The murmurs were incessant. I clenched my fists, acting. Who couldn't? I also threw down my handkerchief and started to cry. Iris, I didn't mean to humiliate you. It is just that for the past half a month, I've seen you and my husband being so close. He never allows me into his study, but he lets you be alone with him late at night. I thought you two were in love but were just too shy to say anything. So I, as the official wife, had to be the one to suggest it. I never thought I was mistaken. His face changed. What are you talking about? When was I ever alone with Iris? If you don't believe me, ask Leo. He has been in the study with me all this time. Leo quickly testified. That is right, mother. How can you be so vicious as to suspect father and my cousin? His words were sharp. I looked at his malicious face and said, word by word, I never knew that in your heart. Your cousin is more important than the mother who raised you. I was just trying to bring your father and his cousin closer. How is that vicious? thinking of my own son whom I had never even met, who had died so young. The tears and hatred in my eyes became more genuine. To curse your own mother as vicious for a cousin you've only known for half a month. Anyone who didn't know better would think Iris was your real mother. My tearful words made his face turn pale, although he quickly recovered and glared at me defiantly. Mother, of course, I am your biological son. You can't say such things just because you are angry with me. But with so many people watching, his guilt was obvious. Now that you mention it, the young master doesn't look much like Madam. The master has peach blossom eyes, and Madam has willow leaf eyes, but the young master has almond eyes. Just like that Miss Iris, someone blurted out, then quickly shut their mouth. The sudden remark made the scene even more silent. Even the usually calm Julian turned pale. In the end, it was the old Madam who suddenly clutched her chest and fainted, ending the awkward birthday banquet. After the guests left, Willow, who had been shouting in the crowd, came to support me. I left the mess and went back to my chambers. In the following days, with my deliberate guidance, rumors began to circulate in the capital that Leo was Julian's illegitimate son with his mistress. His outburst at the banquet, where he had called me a vicious woman in front of everyone to defend Iris, became the best evidence. These contemptuous rumors were a heavy blow to the once celebrated child prodigy. The final blow was his failure. In the provincial exam, the person everyone thought would be a top contender didn't even make it onto the main list, ending up as the first on the supplementary list. Although both were first, there was a world of difference between the main and supplementary lists. The reason was simple. The current emperor despised illegitimate children. The previous emperor had almost been deposed for a concubine's son. Now, not only was Leo's legitimacy in question, but he was also suspected of being an illegitimate son impersonating a legitimate one. A major taboo for the emperor. The chief examiner of the provincial exam would naturally not risk his career for a scholar of questionable background, so he simply failed him. When a distraught Leo came to see Julian, I was in the study arguing with him. Now that Leo is embroiled in such rumors, the best solution is to send Iris away. Once she is gone, the rumors will naturally die down over time. He knew I was right. But after being separated for over a decade, and now that he could finally be with his beloved, how could he bear to be apart from her? What does this have to do with Iris? Let those ignorant people gossip. Iris is innocent. To drive her away for such a reason would be to bully a weak woman. I looked at him in disbelief. In your heart, is a cousin more important than Leo's future? As long as Iris is here, the debate over whether Leo is an illegitimate son will never end. If the rumors continue to spread, and the emperor also suspects he is your illegitimate son, his 10 years of hard study will be for nothing. His expression softened slightly, but he still refused to back down. Seeing his stubbornness, I threw the teacups on the floor in a rage. As I stormed out, I saw Leo standing at the door, dazed. I looked at him with tears in my eyes. Leo, it is all my fault. I can't persuade your father. If only Iris had never appeared before she came. Your father and I were a well-known loving couple, and you were a world-renowned child prodigy. No one in the capital didn't envy us. But now, your father yells at me for her, and even your reputation has been tarnished, and you have been disliked by the emperor. Oh, why is your father so foolish? To ruin his own son's future for an outsider. I pretended to cry, but I peeked at his dark face, a fleeting smile on my lips. My words had thrown him into turmoil. He grabbed my hand. Mother, what should I do? Are you really going to watch my future be ruined? I sobbed and shook my head. Your father won't listen to me now. I think he is going to ruin the whole family for one Iris. Oh, then, like a heartbroken wife, I left, sobbing. Before I left, I clearly saw a dark glint in his eyes. From that day on, I fell ill and took to my bed, ignoring everything. The household was in chaos, and rumors were rampant. After a few days, the opportunity I had been waiting for finally arrived. The supplementary list for the provincial exam, on which Leo had placed all his hopes, was released. His name was not on it. A few days ago, he could still console himself that, although he hadn't made it onto the main list, as long as he was on the supplementary list, He would still have a chance to study at the Imperial Academy. But now, all his hopes were gone. Hearing this news, I immediately put down my melon and instructed Willow. Keep an eye on the bamboo courtyard. Let me know if anything happens. Not long after, Willow came in, clutching her chest, her face a mixture of excitement and disillusionment, her eyes darting around. My lady, something terrible has happened in the bamboo courtyard. You should go and see. Although she had warned me, the tragic scene in the courtyard still shocked me. Iris was lying on the floor, black blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. Julian was holding her in agony. Iris! Iris! He then turned and, like an angry bull, questioned Leo. You insolent brat! How could you poison Iris? She is your... As he was roaring in pain, he caught sight of me out of the corner of his eye and abruptly stopped. A broken porcelain bowl lay at Leo's feet. He stood there, his expression cold. She is just my cousin. If she had behaved and stayed outside, I would have been willing to support an outsider. But who told her to get in the way of my future? Oh my, I cried, rushing in to join the chaos. What are you standing there for? Get a doctor! Don't go, Leo suddenly shouted. As the perfect filial daughter-in-law, how could I enjoy such a good show alone? I had to invite the old madam. I gave Willow a look, and she discreetly slipped away. The father and son were still screaming at each other. Are you even human? Did you really want your cousin to die? Julian looked at him in disbelief. Leo looked at the still staring Iris on the floor, tears glistening in her eyes. Cousin, you always said you loved me. Now, are you willing to die for my future? Tears streamed down her face. She closed her eyes in despair, and the last breath left her body. Iris, watching his beloved die in his arms, poisoned by the son they had both doted on for years. Julian went mad. He stared at Leo, then suddenly grabbed a stool and threw it at him. You heartless beast! I'll kill you! I watched coldly as father and son fought. It was only then that I truly understood his cold-heartedness. His selfishness was not just directed at me. Even with his beloved, he was just as selfish. He could have called a doctor for her long ago, but he also knew that if this got out, it would bring great shame to the family. So he just stood there, full of love and pain, and watched her die. The old madam's scream brought an end to the father-son battle. Leo, having lost his senses, grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed Julian in the lower abdomen. Julian collapsed. He clutched his bleeding groin, his eyes wide with shock, disbelief, and horror, as he looked at the son he had raised as his heir. Leo was also stunned. The tide of anger receded, and his rage-filled mind finally cleared. The scissors fell from his hand. At the same time, the old madam let out a wail and collapsed. After he had seriously injured his father, Leo finally panicked. He grabbed my hand, at a loss. Mother, what do I do? I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to hurt father. Iris was just an illegitimate mistress. Her existence had severely damaged his reputation. Killing her so no one would know their relationship was more beneficial than not. But Julian was different. He was not only his biological father, but also a court official. If it got out that he had stabbed his own father, his future would be completely ruined. I threw myself on Julian, crying, "Husband, husband, what is wrong, husband? Wake up!" The doctor arrived quickly. Seeing Julian's condition, his face turned pale. The old madam was in tears. "Doctor, how is my son? Say something." The doctor trembled. "The master's condition is not good, old madam. You must be prepared. The master's lower body may be paralyzed, and the wound is too deep. The master may not be able to function as a man anymore." On the bed, Julian's eyes rolled back, and he fainted. The old madam's face twitched violently. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed. She was a mess. On one side was her son, on the other, her most beloved grandson. She pitied her son, but she couldn't just watch her dear grandson be thrown in jail. She could only cover her eyes and cry in self-deception, but reality would not let her escape. Soon, the officers of the Ministry of Justice burst in. As soon as I knew things were getting out of hand in the bamboo courtyard, I had someone fetch them. They arrived at the perfect time. In any dynasty, patricide was a major crime. Although Julian was not dead, Leo's actions were enough to have him thrown in jail and tortured. The vice minister of the Ministry of Justice entered, his brow furrowed. He looked around, his gaze pausing for a few seconds on the blood-stained scissors at Leo's feet, then looked away and said in a stern voice, "Who injured the master?" Seeing the officers, the old madam panicked and scrambled to her feet. "It has nothing to do with my grandson. It was this venomous woman, Isabella, who tried to kill my son. Take her away! Take her away!" Leo, terrified, was a mess of snot and tears. He clung to my hand. "Mother, you won't abandon me, right? I am your only child, and father's only heir. You will save me. I can't die. I still have to become the top scholar. Mother, save me." He looked at me with hope, his gaze full of a pleading yet confident certainty. Meeting his gaze, I forcefully shook off his hand and shook my head in pain. "Leo, you have disappointed me so much. You took advantage of being the only son of the family to commit such a heinous crime as patricide." As his face filled with disbelief, I touched my stomach. "I am already 2 months pregnant. Your father will have an heir, Leo. No matter how much I love you, I cannot watch you make one mistake after another." Seeing that I was not taking the blame for him, Leo was on the verge of a mental collapse. And now, hearing that I was pregnant, that he was no longer the only heir, he completely broke down. He angrily picked up the scissors from the floor and lunged at my stomach. "I'll kill this damn beast." Before the scissors could touch me, he was kicked away by the vice minister. He glared, "Arrest him." If this hadn't happened in front of him, he wouldn't have bothered with a capital official's family matters. He would have just let them find a scapegoat and turned a blind eye. But now, Leo had dared to try to commit matricide in front of him. It was a complete disregard for the Ministry of Justice. He would teach this madman a lesson. When Leo was taken away, he had lost all his earlier ferocity, and was begging me through tears. "Mother, I was wrong. Save me. Save me. Leo, Leo." The old madam stumbled after them, watching as her dear grandson was taken away. The story of the child prodigy who had tried to kill his own parents was so heinous, and with the testimony of his own mother, he was quickly sentenced to be executed. When the news reached the family, the old madam cried until she was blind. Julian, looking at his unresponsive lower body, was filled with hatred. He was almost happy to hear that his own son had been sentenced to death. "It is all that venomous woman Isabella's fault. It is all your fault for killing my son. Give me back my son." Hearing the old madam's constant curses, he couldn't help but say, "Mother, it was you who spoiled that brat. How dare he try to kill his own parents? It is a good thing Isabella is pregnant again. Our family will have an heir." With that, he looked at me gently. "Isabella, it is a good thing I have you." I also smiled back at him. "I'm sorry, husband. The doctor was wrong. I am not pregnant." The old madam's crying stopped abruptly. She trembled as she asked, "What did you say?" I said, "I am not pregnant. Now that Leo is dead, and your dear son is a cripple, your family will likely have no more heirs." Looking at my smiling face, the old madam's eyes filled with fear. She clutched her chest. "You, venomous woman. Venomous woman." With that, she let out a cry, and her heart giving out, died. "Mother!" Julian struggled on the bed and fell to the floor. "Isabella, you bitch. Why did you do this? Leo was your son too. I loved you so much. Why did you do this to us?" "My son." My face instantly turned cold. I slapped him hard, and his face immediately swelled up. "My son was killed by you and that adulterous Iris long ago. Julian, you deceived me for over a decade, and you killed my child with your own hands. I will make you pay with your blood." Staring at his shocked, horrified, and disbelieving face, I let out a soft laugh. "But don't worry, I won't let your family's fortune fall into the hands of your clan relatives. You will have a child to inherit the family business," I called Willow. The old madam died of a broken heart over her grandson's death. My husband is paralyzed, and I am pregnant. From today on, the family will be in mourning. All guests are to be turned away, and as his face contorted in a silent scream, I said calmly, "Find me a few clean, healthy, and handsome men from good families. After all, I still need to give birth to the family's heir soon." After a night of pleasure, I dismissed the handsome and clever flower slave, lifted the curtain, and saw Julian on the bed, his face red with anger. Veins bulged in his neck, and even the gag in his mouth was stained with blood. His lower body, having been uncleaned for a long time, gave off a foul odor, and insects were crawling on his legs. "You bitch! If you have the guts, kill me!" I raised an eyebrow. "You want to die? A pity I won't let you die so easily after all. If you die, I will be a widow, and with the child not yet grown, what if the other clan relatives try to take the family fortune?" I very virtuously wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. "You must live a long life, suffer, and watch my child grow up." With that, I stood up and threw the handkerchief in his face. "Husband, you are delirious. I will have the servants give you a bowl of ginseng soup. Oh, and you always say things that make me angry. To avoid getting angry with you, I think I'll just have your tongue cut out." Under the handkerchief, he let out a terrified, pleading sound. A mute servant came in and forced his mouth open. Willow brought a bowl of chicken and ginseng soup. Looking at the greasy soup, I suddenly felt a wave of nausea. I froze for a moment, then my eyes filled with joy. I couldn't help but place a hand on my stomach. "My child, you've finally come back this time. Mother will protect you." I had no more time to torment him. I walked out of the courtyard. "Lock the gate. From now on, no one but the mute servant is to enter." His chilling screams were locked in the courtyard, gradually fading away. Let him rot alone in that dark courtyard. I was going to embrace my bright future,